Hi, I'm Wendy and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to this really easy little bouquet floral painting. So today we're actually going to learn how to do an underpainting. We're going to be using your primary colors with your Liquitex Basics and black and white. I'm only using two paintbrushes, a kind of medium to small flat brush. It's about a 1/2 inch square topped. And then I have a smallish round brush. Make sure you have water, paper towel. I'm using an 8x10 wrap canvas, but you could use any size you want. The key here is that you paint along. I'm going to guide you through step by step. You can customize your colors and stuff, but I promise it's going to be so easy and I can't wait to see what you create. Let's start painting. All right, so for today, I'm going to start with actually the medium square brush, your 1/2 inch flat, because we're going to do a little bit of an underpainting. So an underpainting is like where you fill in the canvas, color block the canvas with not really what you're going to see in the end. It's just a base coat. So I don't always do this, but we're going to do it today. We're going to do some really fun earthy tones. So the first color I'm going to do is going to be kind of a warm yellow. So I'm going to take, and we're going to make really earthy tones. So I'm going to take that medium square brush, get it wet, and we're going to use mostly yellow, the touch of red, and a touch of blue. So it's going to create this earthy shade of yellow. It's not quite brown, but it's starting to look like a little bit less yellow because we've added a little bit of red and a little bit of blue, but it's still mostly yellow. And then I want to add a little bit of water to it. So I'm going to dip my brush in the water and mix it in. And that's just going to create a wash. So when you're doing an underpainting, your background, this wash underneath doesn't need to be really thick, and it should just be, yeah, pretty watery, or it could be watery, or you could add a medium to it, like a paint thinner kind of thing. So with this on here, notice how it's like this really earthy yellow color. We're going to go ahead and just map out where everything's going to go. So I'm just going to go a couple inches at the bottom and make a horizontal line. And then I'm going to find the dead center of the canvas. I'm going to put my fingers together, coming either way. That's going to be the middle. And this is where I want my vase to go. So what I'm going to do is just paint a vertical line here. And I'm going to have my vase go just a little past what we're going to have be like a table. And then it's going to pull slightly smiley face right through the center. So the center of the line should be touching this vertical line. So it makes a T, like upside down T. And then we're going to go ahead and pull out a bit here on both sides. Try to balance it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to pull up a bit. And I'm not going to go all the way to the center. I'm just going to go part way. And then we're going to color this shape in the middle in. All right. And now we're going to move into kind of more of a brown color. So to move more into a brown color, we're going to add more red and blue. Mostly more red though. Notice if I add a lot of blue, it's going to start to look green. So I'm adding more red and I'm just adding it to the same color. And again, I want to have water in there so it's thin. So I just added more red and a touch more blue, but mostly I added more red. And it's fun how you can shift with these earthy colors like really easily. And then we're going to do circles. So right in the center here, from the center and then over to the right, I'm going to make one big circle that goes, and you can make it kind of jagged, almost like a stop sign or something. You can have like little edges on it. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Make it loose. So that's a pretty big circle. And then I'm going to go a little lower and make another one. Maybe this one's the biggest over here on the left. And then maybe I have another big one up here. And then we have like a little one peeking through right here. There we go. I'm going to settle for that. And then I'm going to color it in. I added a little more water. I'm going to color it in with that earthy brown color. You can color this whole space in. It's actually really fun to do this. So if you've never done an underpainting before, I have one video about it, but I don't do it in most of my tutorials. So I thought it would be fun to do today just because I was in the mood to do it. And then I'm going to create some different shades of blue for the background. So I do want it to still look kind of earthy. So I'm going to have mostly blue with a touch of red. And then if there's a little bit of yellow left over, that's okay. Mostly blue with a touch of red. It should give you kind of a slightly purple shade of blue, but I don't want to go full purple because I want more blue than red. And then again, I'm going to water it down. It's so fun. Color mixing is like one of my favorite things ever. I just love it. And then I'm going to color the background in with this. I only want to do the top part with this color, and then I'm going to change it a little bit for the bottom part, just to keep all of our areas nice and laid out. But notice how I can go right up to the edge of that brownish. This is the center here. These are going to be our flowers. It does add another, like doing this does add a little more time to your project. So you could always just go in and paint the top layer without doing this underpainting. But a lot of people love doing it because it tends to add a little more depth, and it just changes the way you see your paint as you put it on, because instead of going on that stark white color, you have these different colors contrasting. So it just gives it kind of a different feel during the process, and it adds a little more depth just because I usually like to allow a little bit of this to poke through, and that adds some depth. So make sure there should be no empty canvas at the top. You should have a little bit of paint everywhere. Okay, and then I'm just gonna add a little more red to that mix to do the bottom part. So it should change it just a bit. I'm gonna do a little more. I'm just going around the vase shape. I picked up some of that yellow a little bit. That's okay. Again, underpainting, you're not really going to see this. It's more for a base color. So it's okay if it looks kind of funky. And that should be thin and just really loose. All right. So that's the first step. You have this underpainting. I'm going to dry it with a blow dryer. You could also just wait. All right, now we get to start the layering. That's so fun. I'm still just going to use the medium square brush. I'm using the same brush. I'm going to clean it and dry it so we can get a good start. And I want the vase to be kind of a really, really, really light pink. So I'm using white with a bit of red. All right, now I'm going to have that on there. I'm going to go in and paint it. So red and a lot of white. gonna add a little more white as I come through the middle. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to this mix to cool it off and make kind of a shadow shade here. So let's put a little bit of blue in there, a little more red and blue. Still want it to be white, but I'm putting red and blue. And it's gonna make like this soft purple color. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put that under the flowers. And then you can brush it down into the pink just a bit, but see how it's a little different under there? And I want to do that along the bottom a little bit and along the left side. But I'm going to do even a little more red and blue on the left. So see how it's just, I'm changing the value, making it darker. And this is going on the left. And again, I can take a little bit of this even darker directly under the flowers. Now, just creating these different shades, I can kind of go around the edge here, is what's going to create a lot of fun depth in the painting. I like it. But I'm keeping it very loose today, very, very abstract and fun. And you could use the white to tone it down if you need to. If your colors get away from you, just clean your brush all the way, and then you can always go back into that really light pink. So the first shade we were using, and you can paint over any of the shadows to tone them down. And then you can even use some like pure white to, through the kind of the center right, to brighten it. So you should see different shades on that already. Now we're going to add more to that, but I'm going to let that dry a little bit first. And then we're going to start going into the flowers with some more deeper shades of pink. So I'm going to add more red and a touch of yellow. And then we're going to go in and make little circles pulling out. And you can leave some of the background showing through, some of the underpainting. And then I'm going to add more red and go in for this one. So see how I can change the shade, just add a little more red. And maybe I add a little more yellow. Now I'm kind of leaning into a bit of an orange flavor over here. I'm going to put it right in here. So it's so fun. Maybe I'll go back into more of a red and white again for this one here. A little more red. And I'm just kind of going in little circles and doing quick little dashes of paint here. And then I can pull some different shades in. Now we want to get a lot of different shades. I want some pink in this one. And then some more white. So see, I'm layering some more white. And then I'm going to let that dry a little bit, but we're going to add more layers. It'll come together. Now for the bottom of the canvas, I'm going to do some leaves first, and then we'll do stuff on the bottom. Now I'm going to clean the brush and we're going to go into some green. So what we can do here is you could use that yellow ochre, which is like yellow with a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of blue, but instead of having a tiny bit of blue, add more blue. So you're basically mixing blue and yellow with a little bit of red, and that will make your green look a little more earthy. You don't have to do that, but it will give it a little more of an earthy vibe, which is what I want to do. And then add some white. And then we're going to pull some little brush strokes over here on the right. Just little dashes. And then I'm going to do a little bit over here. And a little bit coming over here. Just little dabs of paint. We're not even have to think about making a leaf shape because your mind is just going to see a leaf in the context. Oh, it's so fun. And then we're going to go back into some earthy shades again. So remember, earthy is going to look like more red, a little bit of yellow, and a touch of blue. And that's going to give you kind of a brownish vibe. So I do want that, but I might want mine a little leaning towards more red. And then I'm going to pull in some white. So the white is what's going to make it really soften it. And then you can adjust it. But this is what I want for the bottom here. I'm going to come down and add this down below. Now we have this more earthy color at the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the top, but I want to have it be a little cooler. So I'm going to add some blue to that brown. So it's like a brown that has a lot of blue in it. It's kind of, and then a white, and that looks pretty. And then you're going to paint around everything with this. So see how that's coming together? Maybe I want a little more brownish though. So see how I can just add more brown to the color and make it a little more earthy? Then you can see how you like that. I'm just going around those little leaf brush strokes. Notice how I can leave a little bit of that initial color showing. It's okay. It kind of gives it a cool look. You don't have to though. I mean, you can try to paint over everything, but I find that if you're going to do the underpainting, it's okay to let it show a bit. Might as well. All right. And I can even take some of that earthy shade and put it under the flowers onto the vase for that shadowy kind of effect. I'm not using a ton of paint. Here. I kind of like wanted to pull that out from the background just a little bit. And then you can move into using your small round brush, and I can do some fun stuff like creating some little kind of decorations on the vase. So what I'm going to do is take the blue with a touch of red. It should look blue. And then I'm going to pull along the left side, almost like an outline on the vase, a little pop. And then I'm going to do that on the bottom too. And then I can add some little designs, like wiggle the brush. Just wiggle and just twist and turn and let it go crazy. And then that looks kind of fun. And then maybe I add a little more red, make it a little darker. And then I'm going to put, again, make sure you have a good underline under the vase. And then I'm going to put a shadow over to the left. Just pull some brush strokes on the left. And maybe a little bit underneath. Here, like super loose though. I didn't go too crazy. And then I can pull some of that dark color in the center of the flowers. Just a little bit. Maybe some little lines going like this. Maybe a little underline here. Gotta have some contrast. just using blue and red. See, I'm underlining. Do a little bit of that over here. Yeah, we'll go a little bit here. It's just giving a little bit of separation between our flowers, a little bit of depth and separation so that we can see them building off each other. And again, just a little bit in the centers and maybe pulling out just a little bit. Gotta have a little bit of this going on. And guess what? We can paint over some of it, so it doesn't have to be too crazy. And then maybe add a little more blue again. So it's still got a little bit of red, but we're leaning more towards blue. And then I can pull some of this around these leaves, almost like an outline around them, or just some more fun color lines to pull in there. Maybe just have some like little dabs or something. Get really loose. I don't know, it's so fun. So fun. And then I'm going to clean. And then we're going to go into some lighter, brighter colors, and then we're going to call it done. We don't want to go too crazy, but you could just keep layering and layering. So like if you're having fun with this process, man, you can just go on and on. I'm going to get some more light pinks in there. So I'm going to have a lot of white with a bit of red. And it's okay if you have a touch of yellow in there or something to tone it down or give it a little bit of a peachy undertone. And then we're going to go in and we're going to add some more loose brush strokes. And it's okay if it, like mine's kind of mixing on accident a little bit with the shadow color, but that's okay. That's good. I mean, you can even use some pure white. Don't go too crazy with that though. You don't want to wash it out. You want to see a lot of the layers that you have. Notice I can grab it more red, and you can always pop some different shades in as you go. Just do whatever feels fun. Getting in there with that red. And then again, you're pulling in a lot of white. My colors are getting a little mushed up over here, but that's okay. I'm rolling with it. This is where art can be really fun. It's like you can lose control and it's okay. I think it helps me tremendously because a lot of times in life, you do have to kind of let go of the illusion of control because we don't have control over everything. We don't have control over a lot of things, like other people, just the weather, lots of things. And then I'm going to add some brightness to the flowers. So I'm going to add more yellow to my green and more white. Or to the, sorry, not the flowers, the leaves. So more white and more yellow is going to brighten the green up. And then you can pull in some dabs of that. I'm keeping it so loose. I'm just really loosely going into that space and throwing in some of that. Just, you can even make sound effects like, I don't know. Some can be out of bounds, you know, go crazy. And then maybe add a few more like pure white details or like really light, almost pure white details. So you have like a ton of white. Notice I have like just some other random paint kind of mix in. It will tone it down just a little bit, but mostly it looks pure white. And then I can pull some of that in between like my little designs on the vase, put some white in there. You can have some more bright petals on your flowers. You have like little tiny little dabs of white towards the center, contrasting with those darker colors. I don't know. Maybe you can pull in even some more orangey or like maybe like more yellowy, kind of pinkish tones. Or you can even pull in more of those earthy colors from underneath. So it's really whatever you want to see. Maybe you reflect some of the colors from the flowers, like the more pinky colors. This could be kind of fun. I kind of earthed them up a little bit though. But you can have some pink tones on the bottom. And it's kind of reflecting the color of the flowers. I don't know. And then if you want to get any ultra dark, you can get a little bit of black in there for some ultra dark. Now, this is optional. A lot of artists don't use black. They just use those dark purple colors and whatnot. But for example, like maybe I wanted a little darker right on the bottom left corner of the vase to give it a little punch, or in that shadow, or underneath some of the flowers. Like wherever I put my really intense shadow colors initially, you can just go back in and like re-establish it with some black. Now, again, this might make you, if you like the way it is without it, don't do it. Don't feel like you have to do just because I'm doing. It's just a idea. I'm putting some like little lines to just kind of pull, like sometimes doing this just really pulls things together and pulls things out that maybe were not pulled out enough initially. So you gotta follow your heart here. Maybe have some like little branchy type stuff pulling out here. This could add some interest. So if you feel like anything looks too naked or uninteresting, you can pull in some dark little things. And then I think I'm not gonna go too crazy here. I think I kind of want to just let it be, because you know, you can always add more, but if you overdo it, it can start to work against you. So, but I wanted to show you how you can build and use these earthy colors to just create a really simple and fun floral bouquet, because they're so popular, and you can hang it on your wall somewhere and save yourself some money on art, and creates a little conversation. If somebody grabs somebody's eye and they go, oh, I really like that, you can be like, I painted it. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment and let me know what you think, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.